Hi, everybody. Everybody, good evening if you are in India, and good morning or good afternoon, depending on your time zone. Uh, my name is Manoj Onkar, and welcome you all to this special introduction of our flagship program, the Leadership from the Emerging Future. And we are going to have a 60-minute session here to understand a little bit about this leadership from the emerging future, and I'm going to share more about it. But before we go into it, I would like a couple of people to share uh, what interested you to come here to this event, right? What caught your attention? What interested you? If you already have exposure to theory U or this leadership from the emerging future, uh, then you could share that. So let's have a couple of people uh, open their voices here. So if you want to share what interested you to come here, you can raise your hand and I will invite you on stage. Oh, everybody's waiting for somebody else to share. Okay, so maybe after some time. Okay, so let's start, and whenever you want to share or ask a question, you can raise your hand and we will invite you. So we are a team called Emerging Futures, and we operate from India, UK, Philippines, and Thailand. And we are organization development consultants. Last 6-7 years, we have been leveraging Theory U by Dr. Otto Scharber from MIT as our go-to technology for culture transformation in organizations and for leadership and change management. So while we do a lot of other stuff in terms of strategy execution and innovation thinking and other stuff, but with regards to building the right culture and leadership, we are finding Theory U as a very reliable mechanism. And this workshop that we're talking about, Leadership from the Emerging Future, is designed on the principles of Theory U of MIT. So if in case you have heard of Theory U before, can you give me a thumbs up? And don't worry if you have not heard of Theory U before. It's perfectly fine. Okay. Helen, you wanted to speak something? Most welcome on the stage. What happened? Yeah, Helen.
Hello there.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. So I'm very new to all of this. My background is within HR,
Perfect.
recruitment, learning and development.
Mm.
I've taken a short career break. I'm still involved in learning and development and some basics of HR functions. So recently I've had exposure to work on a project which involved a lot of speakers from a technical background.
Mm.
And I got exposed to a lot of the specialisms that are going to be needed going forward. So it's been a real eye-opener for me because I know that there's a real big gap between people that have the right skills and the job market. And actually what I'm hoping to do is upskill myself so that I can potentially look to go into a HR role, but more involved in the sort of organizational changes, involved in development of employees to make sure that costs are saved. When a company has good employees, how can they upskill them? How can they retain them? And also how they can attract the best talent and keep them within the company. So it's very interesting that this came up, this event. So I'm very happy to be a part of this. I have no prior knowledge really on any of the theories that you've just mentioned, but I'm very interested to find out.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Helen. You've come to a right place. I'm sure this will be helpful for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, so as a leader, if you look at what is our job is to take our organizations into the future. And so being an expert on the past is not enough. Right? The game is much more complex. And the game is complex because whichever industry we are in, either there are only three places where we are. Either we have already been disrupted, or we are right now in this process of disruption, or there's a disruption about to happen. So what is important is that as a leader in this phase, we need to take our organizations, whether it's small or big or super large, right? Whether it's a for-profit organization or a government organization or a not-for-profit or an education institution, doesn't matter. What we need to do is to get ready and get our organization ready for responding to the disruption and to bring in a kind of a collective movement to move from the current to the future. So in a simple way, what is disruption? Disruption is that the future is not going to look like the past, and the future is not going to look like the present. And whatever answers we have from the past and whatever answers we have from the present are not going to be sufficient. So that's fundamental understanding of disruption that we are working with here. And let's look at what is then the game. Okay. So this theory that we are building on, this is, as I mentioned earlier, was created by Dr. Otto Scharmer of MIT. This is developed over last 2-3 decades and currently is used in all the top organizations of the world, from the Google to Alibaba to World Bank to United Nations, and even in NGO and educational circles. So this is kind of an, I think, accepted as the very powerful leadership and change management technology. And Otto Scharmer has even got very special awards for this. Recently, he got an OD Networks Award for elevating humanity. And earlier, he had also got awards on MIT Jamison Prize for teaching excellence and other European awards. Is part of the UN Leadership Advisory Council, the World Future Council, and is also part of a high-level 21st Century Transformation Economics Commission by Club of Rome. He works with a lot of organizations worldwide, and more than 2 lakh people have been exposed to this technology. We have been working with this for the last 6-7 years. Some of our core faculty members include Fadi D'Souza, who's based in UK, myself, Manoj Onkar in India, Vivek Chopra in India, and Aljo Pereiras in Philippines and Thailand, and a couple of other team leaders. So let me take you through some of the key points here. What's our purpose? Why are we in this game? One way to say that is alter the consciousness of individuals, businesses, organizations, and society. That's what we want to do. We want to alter the consciousness from egocentric to ecocentric. That's what we are interested. Let's look at that currently, wherever we are in our industry, in our company, whatever is the situation there, that's the current situation. And then we have a desired future. We want to move to a desired future. So what's happening currently is each one of us, we are all stuck individually and collectively in certain patterns of thinking and acting. We call them downloading. Downloading is thinking based and listening based on past patterns, and where we need to create the future in the face of all this disruption. Where we need to create the future is going to be a future of co-creation. And how do we actually create that? So we know where we are. All of us know where we are, right? But and we have some idea of where we would like to go, but we don't necessarily have enough idea of how to go there, how to create that future. Now, let's step back and look at what's happening in the world right now. What's happening in the world, uh, we can divide it into, we can see it as three divides. If you see everything that's happening in the world, you can look at it from three divides. There is a ecological divide, where as human beings, we are disconnected from nature. Then there is a social divide, wherein as human beings, we are disconnected from each other. And then there is a spiritual divide, which is where we are disconnected from ourselves. Now, the first two divides, lot of things have been talked about, and we are aware of it. Not that necessarily enough actions are happening on that area, but yes, most of us are familiar with the eco divide, right? How human beings are disconnected with nature and how we are causing almost unrepairable damage, right? So we are currently using 1.8 times the regenerative capacity of planet Earth. And of course, if all of us behave the way Americans behave, then we would consume 5 times the regenerative capacity of planet Earth. So thank God that all of us are not behaving that way. Now, if you look at the social divide, human beings are disconnected from each other, and we have been very innovative in disconnecting with each other from like many ways, right? So religion, caste, creed, education, geography, language, you name it, we have found various ways to differentiate ourselves, disconnect ourselves from people. One of the ways it shows up is in financial status. The inequality, the financial inequality, many of you might be familiar with it. Currently, 8 billionaires own more wealth than almost 4 billion people, like half of the population of the world. That's a symbol of financial inequality. And you can see it, how it shows up in your country. But yes, everywhere you will find the same spirit showing up. And then there is the spiritual divide. The spiritual divide is who we are right now is disconnected from our highest future possibility. And maybe this is the biggest source, that who we are right now is disconnected from our highest future possibility. Another way to say that is there are two selves. There is a small self, which is working on survival and operating from fear and anxiety and everything else. And then there is the higher self, our true self, which if you believe in God, maybe you say it's a part of God or expression of God, whatever way you look at it. But there is a higher self. And when we are not connected to the higher self, when we are not connected to our true self, then what do we have? We have stress, anxiety, and all the mental challenges that come in. And maybe that's the source of all the other mess that we see on the planet, all the other mess that we see in relationships, all the mess we see in terms of people being egocentric. And so one important part as leaders is we should take care of ourselves. And sometimes it looks like, oh no, I don't have the time. There's always enough pressure. in business or our jobs, or there's pressure on the family, there is a thing, and we don't take time to take care of ourselves. But you will discover, and those of you are already doing it, that's fantastic, please keep it up. Those of you are not doing it, I would recommend to look at it, because when you take care of yourself, especially your spiritual side, right, and then you might find that your contribution in your work and family and everything else will be uh, of a very high quality. So first thing that I would recommend is that, yes, as we are seeing this world and all the mess that's happening, I would recommend that as leaders, we take on a discipline of investing in ourselves, taking care of ourselves, having the support structure that we need, having the space and the time that we need. Such that then when you are dealing with other responsibilities, you are able to give your fullest. If you burn out, it's not going to add any value to the world. If you get stressed out, you're not adding any value to the family or to your workplace or anything. So one of the recommendations, you may not be expecting it when you come to this workshop, but we see it very important, is leaders need to take care of themselves. They need to nurture themselves and support themselves, be on their side, not stress out, not get burnt out. Very important. Okay, so now let me continue. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand in between. By the way, I was talking about a spiritual divide, just a data point that might surprise some of us is you see so much of violence on the planet. People killing each other, war, terrorists, this, that, and also this natural calamities. But still, more people are killing themselves than are being killed by others. Some 800,000 plus people have killed themselves, I think, in the last year. So addressing the spiritual divide where we are, and also then around us everywhere, right, with your family, with your people being able to connect to their higher self is a very important part of creating a new environment. So that's one thing. Now let's look at as a leader, we're trying to bring a change. Now you might be trying to bring a change in your organization, your business, or you're trying to bring a change in the social work. And okay, so let me ask you a question. How many of you are in a organization, in a business organization, and you may be owner or you may be a senior member, and you're trying to bring some change in your organization? If that's who you are, can you raise your hand and give a thumbs up? Give a thumbs up if you are somebody who's trying to bring a change in your organization, or you would love to bring a change. You may not know how to, but you would love to bring a change in your organization. Give a thumbs up if that's who you are. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And if you are somebody who's trying to bring a social change, like you're trying to bring a change in the society, can you give a thumbs up if you're trying to bring a change in the society? Anybody working on that? Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. And if you're trying to bring a change for yourself and your family, can you give a thumbs up if you're trying to bring some change for yourself and your family? Okay, great. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ultimately, leadership is always going to get connected to bringing change, right, and creating some new futures. So if you look at an iceberg, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the iceberg model, where over the water you see the 10% and under the water is the 90%. So the symptoms that you see in your businesses, in your organizations, in the society, all the symptoms that you can see. And you can look at them from the spiritual divide, social divide, all what we discussed. But below the symptoms, there are other things that we need to see, which is below the water level. Right? So the first thing is structures. The current symptoms, whether it's in our families or in our organizations or in the society, whatever you're seeing, those current symptoms, they didn't show up overnight. They showed up because there are some structures that caused them. And there are some structures which are maintaining them in existence. So if you're seeing poverty, or if you're seeing the employees are not engaged in the organization, or if you're seeing corruption in the planet, whatever you are seeing, whatever symptoms you are seeing, right? Scarcity, whatever symptoms you're seeing, consider that there are some structures, social structures, political structures, organizational structures that are keeping them in existence. Those structures, and we need to go deeper, not just deal with the symptoms, because if you just deal with the symptoms, you will be reacting. But if you go deeper and start to look at the structures, then whatever solutions you come up with, you will have some depth, some substance. So the first inquiry we have to do is, what are the structures that are causing the symptoms in the organization, in the society, in the family? The next level that you can see is the thought process, the consciousness, the paradigm, because those thought processes are at the source of the structures. Those paradigms, those mental models are the source of the structures, which are then causing all the symptoms that we can see. So as a leader, as a person who's trying to bring change, one is we spend our energy on the symptoms, or we choose to go deeper and we choose to look at the structures, we choose to look at the thought process, and then there's, of course, below that is the source, the internal condition of the leaders. We'll talk about that. But first thing is that there are symptoms which are visible, and then below the water level is structures, thoughts, and source. If you're with me still now, if you're getting what I'm pointing at, give me a thumbs up, please. And if you have a question of what I said, you want to ask that question, then you can raise your hand and I will invite you to ask the question. Okay, so I am assuming that you're getting so far that there is symptoms which is above the water level, and then there are, which is visible, but there are things which are not so visible. There are the structures, the thought process, and the source. Okay, now, so we need to address at all these levels. We need to address at the symptom levels, but we also need to address at the structure level, the thought levels, and the source level. So what happens if you address only at the symptom level? Only if you address only at the symptom level, then you are just reacting. You're going to do a reaction. But if you move to the structure level, then you have an opportunity to redesign the structures. Maybe you can redesign the policies, you can redesign the frameworks, and you can redesign your processes. So that's an opportunity. We will start looking at the structure. Now, if you go deeper, then you have an opportunity to work on the thought process, the mental models, and you can reframe the mental models. You can reframe the values and beliefs. So that is going deeper. Of course, how do we go? That is a different conversation. We're going to go a little bit into that. And the fourth level is what we call as regenerative. So it's not important just to sustain, but now sustenance is kind of an old conversation. We need to learn how to regenerate. Not only stop the damage, but how do you regenerate the people, regenerate the organization, regenerate the society? And for that, you need to get connected to people at a very inner level, connect to their inner sources of inspiration, inner sources of commitment. So there are 4 levels of responding to change. If you are responding at symptom level, you can call it reacting. If you're responding at structure level, you can call it redesigning. You're redesigning policies, processes, frameworks. But if you're dealing with the mental models and the thought process, then we call it reframing. But if you can connect to the inner source of people, the higher self, then you are able to think of regenerating. It's like not just not doing more damage, but actually giving new life. That's an advanced conversation. We will do it at some appropriate time, may not be today in that, but I just want you to see that when you look at the current situation, whichever level you are looking at it from, that determines what kind of response you can get. So how many of you can see, give me a thumbs up if you understand that just responding to the symptoms is like reacting. It's not going to be much deeper. It's just a reaction. How many of you can get that? Thank you very much. And how many of you can go that if you go deeper and look at the structures which are causing it, the organizational structures, the social structures, the political structures, then it allows you to deal with the structures and redesign the structures, redesign the policies, frameworks, everything. How many of you get that? Give me a thumbs up if you get that part, second part. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And of course, not all of us, and not all the organizations do it. But now that we are getting aware of it, I think we can begin that inquiry. Oh, what are the structures there? And if you still get a chance to go deeper, if you create the atmosphere where you can go deeper, then you start dealing with the thought processes, the thoughts, the thought model, the mental paradigm, the values, the beliefs. And that is a very powerful place, because then you are reframing the whole game. Otherwise, when you redesign the policies and processes, but people have the same mental model, if people have the same beliefs and same mindsets and same attitude, they will create the same problem in a new structure. So unless you alter the mindset, altering the structure will not give you sustainable results. It will not really create a new reality, because the source is this mindset. So you need to alter the mindset, you need to alter the values and the belief systems. So that's the third level. And fourth level will not go right now, but this is the basics that we want to look at. Okay, so any questions so far? Anybody? You want to ask a question from whatever you're hearing right now? Welcome everybody who's joined in a little later. Thank you for joining in. If you have any question right now, feel free to ask. Okay, so now we're going to look at the principles of system change. Okay, and some of you would be familiar with it, but let's look at the principles of system change. If you're not familiar, if this is the first time you're listening to this, I am sure it can open up a world of insights for you. So many of you may have heard of Kurt Lewin. He's also from, he was also from MIT. And he was the kind of a pioneer in this action research work. And he said, you cannot understand a system unless you change it. So when you are outside and you're trying to understand the system, you can't understand the system. But when you get in and get involved in the whole process, and we're trying to change the system, as you try to change the system, you start understanding the nuances of the system. You move from knowing the system to understanding the system. Now you might be in the working in the same system for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you will know it. But when you actually try to bring change there, then you will understand it very differently. So we have some friends here who have been in the organizations for 20, 30 years. And you might be saying that, oh, I know the system. I know how it works. But actually, when you try to change it, you will discover so many nuances of the system, so many complexities of the system. Right? So that's where the first principle is: you cannot understand a system unless you can change it. That's Kurt Lewin for you. And then we have something from Otto Scharmer himself. You cannot change a system unless you transform consciousness. So this is an important part here. And maybe if you just take this with you today, I think we would have given you value for the session. You cannot change a system unless you transform consciousness. Similar to what I said earlier, if you react to the symptoms, or if you just keep changing the structures and frameworks and policies, and if you change the organization structures and all that, that's not going to cause transformation. You have to work on transforming the consciousness, the way people see and think. Unless you alter the way people see and think, you can't have any real impact. So the important thing is you cannot change the system. Look, in your family, in your workplace, in the society, you cannot change the system unless you transform consciousness. Now, how do you do that? So that comes to the third principle, is you cannot transform consciousness unless you make a system see and sense itself. So I'm going to repeat, you cannot transform consciousness unless you make a system see and sense itself. So what does it mean? So if you are in an organization, what does it mean to get the system to see and sense itself? First thing is, it starts with looking at who are the stakeholders. Maybe your department, you can see, but who are the other stakeholders? Maybe your supervisors, maybe their supervisors, maybe your peers, maybe other departments. And the big point is, there are many stakeholders whom we are blind to. We don't even recognize, oh, these people are affected by our work, or these people affect our work. So one way we recommend that you look at stakeholders is, look at all the people who either impact your work or they get impacted by your work, right? So whether it's your family, the family of your employees, or the customers, or the vendors, or the users of your product, the side effect that it causes, whatever. So when you start looking at various stakeholders, expand your group of stakeholders. Right? That is the first step, starting to recognize all the stakeholders. And then the next step is to actually see the world from their eyes. Connect with those stakeholders and see the situation from their eyes. So that's part of the system seeing and sensing itself. But who should see from the eyes of other stakeholders? Not just you, but all the stakeholders. So you have to get representatives of all stakeholder groups, and slowly you got, of course, it will be some process that it will take. It may not happen in one shot, but you have to create multi-stakeholder dialogues. Maybe you start with internally, then you bring in some external stakeholders also. You have to have a series of multi-stakeholder dialogues where you can start seeing, where everybody can start seeing the situations from the eyes of other stakeholders. So if there are 10 stakeholder groups, everybody being able to see the situation from the eyes of all the 10 stakeholder groups. And when that happens, and it has to happen not by people just listening with their head, but people being trained to listen with their heart. Because unless people can experience the pain, the suffering, the challenges of other stakeholder groups, not understand only, but actually experience it in their heart, then only people will transform. So got to be able to connect with the stakeholders, see the situation from the eyes of the stakeholders, and experience the situation from their perspective. When you can bring that in the system, that's where you transform consciousness. And when you can transform consciousness, you can change the system. So as a leader, your game is to transform this consciousness. And creating this multi-stakeholder dialogues is an important part of that. Okay, so let me pause here and see if you have any questions. I hope you have some questions, because otherwise I don't know whether you are getting everything or if everything is going like wide. Okay, so Suman, you want to say something? Okay, go ahead, Suman, and then I'll give a chance to Dr. Ramesh. Yeah, Suman, did you want to say something, Suman?
Yes, sorry, the usual technological issues.
No problem. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and thanks so much for sharing this perspective so far. I mean, it's been enriching for me. I have been in many situations where I had to, if not lead the change, but be a part of the change and sort of also enable change in the organization that I have worked for in the past. One of the biggest challenges, and this is a question for many thought leaders who are attending the event today, as well as to you, since you're well read in this topic. The question is, each one of us is driven by our own filters because of our own belief system, dogmas, and the way we are conditioned to see the world. We have our own lens. And when we are talking about large-scale organizational changes, and we talk about multi-stakeholder dialogues, where everyone experiences each other's perspective, I have felt that sometimes there is very frequently, because it just becomes a process that we follow and really does not keep results. So is more research on how organizations can work around these multi-stakeholder dialogues, and are there processes which are more effective than the other is my.
Thank you very much, Suman. So I think you have crossed the first hurdle, right? Which is that you have recognized that each one of us is coming with our own baggage, or you, of course, you use some other word, but we are coming with our own barriers, right? And I think that's a very important part, that if we can get people to see that we don't really listen, we don't really get to see the world the way it is, and we need to train ourselves. So one of the things that we do in this workshop, and what theory you also focus on, is developing a new level of proficiency in listening. We call it listening factually, listening to new data. So one of the things we also say is listening with humility. what does it mean? So how open you are. The leadership question is, how open can you be, or how open are you to listen to data that you don't want to listen to? So that's the part of factual listening, Suman, that first we have to train ourselves and then we have to train our colleagues in. Do you get that, Suman?
Sure, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then the second thing is to develop the open heart listening. So this is the open mind listening. Then we look at open heart listening. What does that mean? Being able to see from other sides. And if you look at in an organization, the blind spot is not seeing. As I said, the first blind spot is not seeing. We don't see new data. We don't see contradictory data. The second blind spot we are dealing with is not feeling. We're not connecting to people. We're not connecting, especially we're not connecting to the edges of our organization. We are not connecting to those people who don't have much say. Right? Not in the head office, but you need to connect with people in the field, people in the peripheries of the organization, people on the intersection of the organization and the world. And when we can sense the system from the edge, see from their eyes, that would be the next level of listening, which we call as empathic listening. Right? And the third level points to the third blind spot. So we're talking about three blind spots, Suman. One is not seeing, second is not feeling, and third is not acting. So if you look at organizations and society, of course, there's a lot of apathy and there's a lot of fear that governs how people behave. So as a leader, the question is, can you sense and step into the future that wants to emerge? So this three leadership development has to happen. Training our people so that they develop humility, listening to data that they don't want to hear. So Suman, you are in HR, right? So one of your responsibilities might include helping people develop, helping the leaders develop themselves. And first thing to develop is developing the humility to listen to data that they don't want to hear. How many of you can see that while everybody thinks they are great listeners, not many people have the humility to listen to data that they don't want to hear? Give a thumbs up if you can see that many people struggle. They might be thinking they're very open and they're very otherwise great, but when it comes to listening to data that they don't want to hear, then the whole baggage gets triggered, or the whole kind of listening gets blocked. Because we want to listen to what we know. And then seeing from others' eyes. Okay. So Suman, I hope it's helping you in some way. Am I answering your question?
Yes, absolutely. I think some of these concepts are important for people in HR, especially to have
Yes.
dialogues with the teams, whether it's at a leadership level or the junior ones.
Right.
You just sound incredible. It use a certain language which they don't.
Yeah. So yeah, and the HR leadership, of course, need to learn all this. Then only they can support other people to learn, right? So great. Thank you very much, Suman. Anybody else? You have any question? Is there something that you want to ask, get clarified? So let's look at that. Most of us understand, and most of us, to some degree, we practice open mind, open heart, and open will. You may not have used the same words, but all of us want to practice, and to some degree, we do practice open mind, open heart, open will. But if you look at the society at large, and if you look at the organizations at large, you also see the opposite happening. You also see a lot of closed mind, not open to new data, not open to new perspectives. You also see a lot of closed heart, where we label people, and or people get labeled, and the moment they are labeled, then it allows us to be insensitive to them. Oh, these are from that department. Oh no, that department, they don't understand reality. No, these are those people, this kind of people. Oh, these are this religion people. Oh, these are this caste people. Oh, these are this type of people. So the moment people get labeled, we lose the sensitivity for them. So that's something that we have to, that there is an open mind, but there's also a lot of closed mind happening. There is an open heart happening, but there's a lot of closed heart happening, disconnect happening. And there is an open will to try out new things and all that, but there is a lot of closed will also. Like, say it's my way, no highway also, just my way. And I'm sure you're seeing this in organizations, and you're seeing this in the society. So how many of you have seen some amount of closed mind, closed heart, closed will in your organizations? Give a thumbs up if you've seen that, if you can identify that. If you can identify that, yeah, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Ramesh, did you have any question? I think you had raised hand earlier. Do you want to say something? Okay, so if you want to say something, you should raise your hand again, and I will invite you to share. So the game, the challenge is for us, and then for the other leaders in the organization, how do we create this new culture where we are looking at system change, not just reacting to symptoms, and we are dealing with this core blind spots of not seeing, not feeling, and not acting. So that's where this theory U comes into picture, leadership from the emerging future, this course comes into picture. And this is a curated course to help leaders develop these competencies. We call them the competencies of deep listening, sensing, and sense making. And that's the first step. So the whole game of change management, whole game of leadership, whole game of creating new realities, you can say it is in 3 phases. The first phase is transforming perception. If we cannot transform our perceptions, we are stuck in our old world. So first thing we have to master is transforming perceptions. Being able to see differently, and see ourselves differently, see people differently, see situations differently. So that's first step. And then, of course, when you do all that, you also transform other people's perception of you, which is an added bonus. The second thing is transforming self, being able to move from our small self to connect to our higher self, to connect to our true self. Because this small self of survival and all that, that's always going to be there, nothing wrong with it. Ego is going to be there, nothing wrong with it. But you don't want your whole life to be about that only. And you don't want your whole organizations to be about just egocentric. Yeah, everybody in the organization will have their own egos, they will have their own concerns, personal concerns. They're valid, but you don't want it to be the only game in town. So how do you move yourself? How do you move your teams? And how do you move your organization from egocentric to something bigger? We call it ecocentric. Eco, not just nature, but eco, like having much broader perspective, including multiple dimensions of life in that, and having it work for more and more people. So this is what we do. So transforming perception, then transforming self, and the third level phase is called transforming action. And we have workshops for each of these phases, and we offer consulting services on each of these. Our consulting services are only designed to work when the leadership team is involved, whether the leadership team of the company or the leadership team of that particular department, they need to be involved. Then only the consulting work works. But yes, if you want to get yourself trained, if you want your teams to get trained in this technology, that's definitely possible. Our first level course is for transforming perception. It's called Leadership from the Emerging Future, and that's why this name here. That's the very powerful entry into this new paradigm of system change. It's a 2-day course. It is followed by 6 sessions. Our time and the next batches that are available online, we do it on Zoom. We also do it offline, but most of the offline workshops are in-house for a particular organization. Online workshops are for both in-house also as well as open. So the open workshop, online workshop conducted on Zoom, the next workshop is on 19th and 20th November. And the next after that will be 21st, 22nd January. So these are the 2 next workshops that are available on Leadership from the Emerging Future. If you can reach out to me, send on LinkedIn or on my WhatsApp, I'll repeat my number. We will be able to send you additional information about these courses with the brochures and every other details. If you need to reach out, talk to me, interact with me, you can send a WhatsApp message or send a message on LinkedIn and we will touch base. So I'm going to repeat my WhatsApp number. You can send a message to me, connect with me on that. WhatsApp number is 91, that is for India, only required for if you're outside of India. And then the number is 910 6456 275. 910-6456-275. You can also reach out to me on email, manoj@emergingfutures.com, Emerging Futures with a Z, EMERGING, Emerging FUTURZ.com, emergingfutures.com. And yeah, you're also, most of you are connected with me on LinkedIn. If you're not, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or and we can give you further information. Okay, so now we got around 7 minutes in the session. I would really appreciate if 1 or 2 of you can share with me, what did you get out of the session today? Did you get anything useful? What did you get? And of course, if you have any question, you can ask. Was there any value addition for you today? And if yes, please share. Right. And so for how many of you, you learned something new or you learned something useful today? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, thank you very much. A couple of you. Thank you. Virana, you want to speak? Most welcome. Let me give you an invitation. Okay, go ahead. You are from healthcare. Virana, I think, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anyway, I understood to a little extent, and it is good that in these days of critical moments,
Yeah,
one should follow what the advices you have given and suggestions you have given to us.
yeah,
That like transforming ourselves,
yeah,
the most important thing, which should be followed by transforming others. So a conscious change, a system change should be there.
yes,
That's most important, of course.
Yeah.
This is what I have learned.
Great. Very good.
And other core values also.
Very good. We are doing a lot of work with people in the healthcare game. We are consulting a
Yes.
couple of hospitals, and we have a couple of CEOs from various hospitals participating in our open workshops also.
Yeah.
So you can see that healthcare also requires, like all other
Yes.
industries, it requires a shift from egocentric to
Yes.
ecocentric, right?
Yes. Yes. Most important. Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, we get consumed in our own head with things that
Yes.
are priority in our own head, and we are not in the world of the stakeholders.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we miss out opportunities to serve. We miss out opportunities to grow. Everything.
Yes.
Right? Fantastic. So
Yeah.
it would be great if we can talk to you later on. So if you can reach out, share your contact details, that would be great. We can connect. Are you
Okay.
connected with me on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. Maybe you can
Yes,
send me
sir.
a message there, or you can connect with me on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you very much. You are in which city, Viranna?
I'm in Bangalore.
Oh, great. We have our
Yeah.
friend partners in Bangalore. Great.
Oh,
Thank-
so good. That's so nice.
Yeah. We are also
nice.
working with a hospital in Davangere, which is, I'm sure, not very far from Bangalore. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And
On the 4 hours journey.
yeah. And I think one in Mangalore, which is again not very far away from Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
What is the name of the establishment?
We'll talk to when we share with you personally. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shamshad,
So nice. Sir.
welcome. Shamshad, you want to say something? Shamshad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, Manoj, for the wonderful session. So I'm currently one of the leadership program. I'm into one of the leadership program from my organization. So I'm into kind of early stage of leadership.
Right.
I want to understand what exactly is this program. And one thing you clearly and very beautifully told that we should have open to listen what we don't like to, because we have a habit of listening
Right.
what we like to, and we always encourage. But being a leader,
Yes.
you might not have an answer immediately. You can take a time, because most of the times we think that leader does not accept his mistakes, or things, but it's not like. We are humans. We should be able to accept our mistakes, and we should give answer like, we will get back to you if you don't know, but ready to listen, ready to accept the mistakes. So that is a wonderful thing I learned today. So thank you, Manoj, for that.
Welcome, Shamshad. And do you have any question?
Nothing, like I'm into kind of one of the kind of stage of learning something new technology, so
Great.
I'm learning those things.
You are
So
from
it's
which
just
organization?
wonderful
You're from
experience.
Novartis, right?
Yes, I'm from pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals.
Novartis.
Great. Yeah. So maybe you can ask your organization to check out, and maybe they can nominate you for our future courses, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
can be in
definitely,
touch.
because currently I'm into 1 year leadership program in my current organization.
Sure.
We also have internal leadership program, but definitely I will suggest if you have wonderful programs, then I will definitely. So I have your number noted down.
Thank
So
you
I
very
will get
much.
back to you, Manoj.
Thank you.
so
Take care.
much.
Thank you. Everybody, thank you very much for your participation with us, and be in touch for if you need further information. Satyadeep, I got your message. We will look at it and respond later. Everybody, thank you very much for your participation here. Hope it was worth your time. Feel free to ask questions. You can email me or send messages on LinkedIn. Uh, email again, I repeat, manoj@emergingfutures, futurz.com. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Have a nice day.